you'll do it
Association,
correctly.
yeah,
Yes, you'll do that correctly.
absolutely.
Because some of us had looked at the website, the resources that were there. Um, we're kind of in a newly reinvigorated commission phase,
Good.
where after the pandemic, things had there had been some struggles in getting people to quorum, but over the past, I don't know, 9 months or so, there's been a lot of effort by the mayor's office to get commission seats filled.
Good.
Because that was one of our challenges, is not having enough filled seats to even get close to making quorum, and kind of figuring out what it is that we're wanting to do, what we have the skills to do. So it was in the offing that we would have been reaching out to you all. So this is great. I think there was something in the air, but I will quickly, I'll just turn it over to you.
That'd be great. I'm so happy to be here. And Christy, I assume you're the chair. That's pretty obvious. Right?
I don't know if that's always the case.
But it's great to meet
Ariana,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
Ariana's the vice chair, and then I'm just going to point out we actually are at 5 now because Leslie
good.
has joined. So we have met quorum.
Good. If you want to reverse back and go
Yeah,
ahead with regular business, I'm good with that too.
that would be great. And I'm just going to confirm, Leslie, are you here with us? If you can put something in the chat or come off mute.
I am here and sick, but I'm here.
Yes, Leslie. We're glad that you made it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order officially at 5:46 or 4:46 p.m. Why is this clock wrong? And I'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you want to join in, you may, but as of our last meeting, what we had opted to do is just have one person speak the pledge and others can do so in their way, however they choose to do that. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Approval of the agenda. I will open the floor for motions discussion. This would be the November agenda, or
Yes.
no,
Motion to approve the agenda. Sorry.
Sorry, my head got messed around. I'm thinking minutes. Approval of agenda for today. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, that was Ariana motion. Do we have a second?
I was second.
Thank you, Leslie. All in favor, either give us a thumbs up emoji or say aye.
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 Any opposed? So there's none opposed. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Now we'll go to approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was November, correct? Or was that in December?
December. It was November's meeting in December.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Did everyone see the minutes?
I did. Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second the motion. This is Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. All in favor, thumbs up or aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We can do old business. Let's start with our infrastructure committee. That would be Ariana.
Yeah. I connected with Kayla. Kayla, you were the first person that I like emailed a bunch of information to. So if you have any feedback where you were like, too much, too little, I had questions, let me know, because as we have new commissioners, the idea is that they'll get like some onboarding from within the commission. Um, Otherwise, Sharon, I think I reached out to you about wanting to communicate that we do have an open seat with the mayor's office and do some sort of like infrastructure comms chit chat. So if you don't mind checking your email, you and I can still work on that.
Okay.
Or if you
Yeah.
didn't get it, let me know.
Okay.
Cool. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Okay. And Kayla, just by way of explanation, we have a plan for how we're going to have a plan. And as part of that, we developed 3 subcommittees or committees of this commission. One of them being Ariana is leading, and that's infrastructure. So it is about onboarding, setting up the structure for our commission, making sure that we have the documents and everybody has the information that they need in order to sustain and continue working with the commission. The other one is outreach and communications. Sharon has agreed to lead that one, and that is obviously about our social media, getting information to the public, recruitment, things of that nature. And then the last one, we've called it strategic planning. And strategic planning is a piece of it. But the first piece is really before we go and decide based on our own limited perspective of life here in the city about what we should do, we opted to do a community needs assessment with some specific targeted focus groups to certain subpopulations in the city to make sure that we are gathering a wide perspective. And then based on that, the results of that will help feed our strategic planning for what the commission realistically can address. And given what our particular purpose and mission is under its charter. So what we've asked is that commissioners all volunteer for at least one of those committees. And you don't have to make a decision tonight. I'm not sure if Ariana sent you that information about the different committees. But if not, we can always go back over it if you have questions. Because I know you're like, it's my first night. How do I decide what to do? You are still early on in this process with all of us, okay?
Right. Okay.
And then so second committee that we need to hear from is outreach and communications, and that would be Sharon.
And unfortunately, I don't have anything to report. So,
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to meet with anyone else who volunteered to be on the outreach communications committee?
no. Because I
Okay.
know the only 2 was me and Leslie.
Okay. So do you feel like you all could use an additional volunteers or specific help? Because I know that this is kind of a crucial component for us in terms of recruitment and then upcoming needs assessment. So what help do you think you guys could need, or is it just a time issue?
I think it's just a time issue right now. Um, so yeah, I think that's what it is. If
Okay.
anybody else wants to join, I'm perfectly fine with that. But as of right now, I think it's just a time issue.
Okay. So not to suit, if I wish I could get my tongue untied tonight. Strategic planning, same issue this last month, and that makes sense because of the holidays as well. I think Ariana has been moving things along in her committee. But I think for the other two of us that we need to make sure that we bring back something for the next, the February 5th meeting. Because otherwise we're going to be down to the road and it's summertime and people are on vacation again. So, what I'd like to do is I have a couple of other people who are on this strategic planning. Kayla, could I ask you if you actually, let's pause here because this will tie into this fairly well. I know Sharon's got a pretty busy job. Ariana does as well, as do I. And sometimes we're not always able to coordinate things. So what I am going to be doing in my committee is asking one of my other committee members if they can spearhead organizing us getting together to delegate out that task. It seems minor, but the time always gets away from me and I'm like, oh, now I can't even organize. I don't have time to organize us getting together to have a conversation. Are you interested, Kayla, in any of these three at this moment, or do you want to wait to make a decision?
So the one that I'd say that I'm probably is number 3 on my interest list is just a strategic plan and annual report because
Okay.
fun fact, when you guys sent me these emails, I was day 2 into a new job as the grants coordinator at Alaska Pacific University. So I was reading all of our policies and then all of their policies, but I feel like because I do that for work, I don't think I'd enjoy taking that on in free time. Whereas like the other two, I don't really do as much for work. So I'd kind of be fine, I think, with either or whichever one you think needs more people at the moment or something like that. So honestly, I'd be fine with either of those two.
I think Leslie had volunteered for both infrastructure and outreach. Is that right, Leslie?
Leslie, who works for the state as the We Over Youth grantee. So I got grantees statewide, volunteers because nobody else speaks up. So anyway, I just try to be helpful. But I have a bad habit of saying yes too many times. But like again, I've been part of this since COVID. Wanted to see some action. So and wanted to make action. So yeah, that's just a habit. Leslie likes to engage and bring people. So I'm gonna say yes to anything. But sometimes like yeah, my plate is full. But yeah,
So
I'm
the
gonna
reason
be
I
where you
brought you
need me.
up is the reason I brought you up is I think Leslie was the overachiever amongst us and volunteered for 2 committees. Um, but so those 2 committees that you just mentioned, the infrastructure and the outreach, only have 2 people on them. So either of them, or if you were really feeling some way about it, you could do both. I think it'd be very helpful. And then if either you or Leslie want to help and jump in and help Sharon schedule time for you all to meet about what needs to be done to get our Facebook page reactivated, any other social media websites, so that we can get that updated, because all of that will be really important for our ongoing work.
Then I would say put me on outreach because my background is, so I have an MPA in concentration of nonprofit management. I've worked for Syracuse University, West Virginia University. I had to develop the website at both institutions for the particular sector that I was working for, not the whole shabaddle for it.
No, yeah.
But doing that and then recruitment for an NSF program that a professor received and stuff. So I'm used to doing like that kind of outreach and getting it going and taking people's stories and putting it on the social media, or like even sometimes just having them write their own snippet and saying like, this is what you want out there for the people to actually see, right? So that we don't get it twisted.
That would be great, Kayla. And
Okay.
while it's not your current job, you definitely sound like you've got some good skills in that. and that would be really beneficial. So we will put you on outreach and communications with Sharon as the lead and Leslie, and then I will make sure that everybody gets that contact information once you send me your phone number to make it a little bit easier for you guys to organize your time to meet. In terms of, even if the only thing you're able to do is say, here are the things that we need to target before our next meeting, that's fine. And then I will reach out to the other folks on strategic planning to
I
get
think we
something
have
in.
at least a couple of commissioners who aren't on a commission as well, or who aren't on a committee, because I think like maybe at our last meeting somebody was new and maybe didn't pick one. I just would be curious like what the actual breakdown was again of our committees, because if I'm the only one on outreach and only, or on infrastructure, and only 2 people are on outreach, then does that mean 4 people are on the other one? Because we have 8 of 9, and I don't think everybody knows that.
No, so Leslie and you are on infrastructure,
Okay.
and then Sharon and Leslie are on outreach and communications. And then on strategic planning, it's me, Celeste, and Beth.
That's still missing 2,
What
right?
are we missing then? Oh, Cindy hasn't been here to
Right.
volunteer for one. That's the one that's missing.
Got it. Well, and now Kayla's on outreach.
Yes. So we have we have 3 people on outreach, 3 on strategic planning, 2 on infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so maybe we need a targeted ask to Cindy about if she's able to help with the infrastructure one, so it's evenly broken out, but
Yeah.
okay. So we partly had Kayla introduce herself. I'm gonna hold on to that, and we're gonna go to new business and put you after Nancy now, since she's been kind again. So, all right, Nancy.
All right.
So this is our informational presentation.
Yay. All right, ladies, I'm so excited to be here. I cannot tell you. So I am on the board of the National Association of Commissions for Women. My name is Nancy Bermeau. A little bit of a cold right now. My local commission is Santa Clara County. I mentioned that earlier. That's the heart of Silicon Valley here in Northern California. I've been on that commission for 7 years. I've been on the board of NACW for 2 years. And I'm on a mission. I am very passionate about the work of these commissions. And I'm so happy to be here to make the connection I will put all my contact info in your chat. I'm available at any time, just to, throw some ideas back and forth. I'm really passionate about best practices, about the purpose of these commissions and how to make our work count. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. But first of all, for NACW, I just wanted to mention that the organization has been around for 50 years. We haven't done a good job of promoting ourselves. Now, that's not good. So we are on a mission right now. We are relaunching the entire organization. We're relaunching our website. I know you mentioned a couple of you might have looked at our website recently. That is going to be growing and evolving pretty rapidly. NACW has a history of, its primary purpose has been over the years to hold basically an annual convention. And that's been done in person, and it kind of jumps around the country to different places. But we are in the process of moving from that in-person once-a-year event to a year-round program of virtual events, so that all of us can get together on a regular basis and really do what we need to do, which is network and share resources and share best practices. And that was my personal motive behind getting involved with NACW. And so I'm kind of the person behind all of that. We are potentially going to continue with an in-person meeting, but we're talking about doing it every other year instead of every year. Last year, they held it in Oklahoma City. The year before that was in Boston. It's kind of jumped around from place to place. But typically we don't have a big turnout at those because it's expensive. A lot of us have families and jobs, and we're not necessarily going to hop on a plane and fly somewhere unless it's really, really, really meaningful and it's really going to add to what we do. And we are going to do our best to make sure that those in-person events are super meaningful. But in the meantime, we are launching these year-round virtual events. So I do want to mention that our next virtual event, we're launching these quarterly, they're called conversation forums. Our next one is at the end of this month on January 28th. I will be forwarding over to Ashley to send out to all of you the registration link for that. And I'm pretty excited about it. We're hosting a group called the U.S. Women's Caucus. And the U.S. Women's Caucus works nationally and globally on policies for women and girls. And they've also produced a set of reports that are really, I think, are really going to be helpful to all of us on our commissions. They have, I don't know, 20 plus reports that they wrote in the past year, which are focused on different policy areas. They're actually, I should actually call them briefs because they're like no more than 2 pages long. They're full of resources. So if your commission wants to explore a gender lens on homelessness or education or women's health care or gender-based violence or childcare issues, you can go to their website, pull up those 2-page documents that are full of resources, of places you can go to gather information and apply it locally. So we are hosting them on January 28th, and we're also going to be talking about something else that I'm not sure everyone is aware of. We all should be aware of it. But the entire history of our commissions, and I'll tell you, when I joined my commission 7 years ago, I thought we were a one-off. I didn't even know that the county next door to me had a commission. And so I, la-di-da joined that commission. And then it took me about a year to figure out there's over 200 of our commissions across the country. There's not one at every state level. Some states have a commission at the state level that work with your state legislature, but the majority of the commissions are either at county level or city level. And so once I realized that, I was like, then we shouldn't be recreating the wheel every time. We should be learning from each other. So that's what our priority is. And the other thing a lot of people don't realize is when you work backwards, all of these commissions were founded and are modeled after something at the United Nations. So the United Nations has a Commission on the Status of Women that was founded in 1947 and is still very active today. It's kind of odd to me, but I was one of the ones who didn't know about it, that commission exists. And every year in March, during Women's History Month, they hold a 2-week gathering in New York City, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I highly recommend, if you can get to New York City, it's a great place to be, but it's also available virtually. So during those 2 weeks, they have hundreds of sessions on every topic you can imagine. And they have a great platform where you can network and meet other women from all over the country and frankly, all over the world. And I joined that virtually maybe 5 years ago, and I was just blown away. I made so many contacts. My network just exploded. And then since then, I've been going in person. I've kind of done a mixture. I go in person some years and I attend virtually other years. But on January 28th at this event that we're holding, we are going to be talking about that and how you can register and how you can attend it and et cetera, et cetera. So that's the second part of that event on January 28th. So with that in mind, I just wanted to reiterate, we're launching these quarterly conversation forums, and we're in the process of launching what will be monthly networking sessions. So we're setting up these monthly events where they're just an hour long. You could hop in, hop off anytime you want, and just meet other commissioners from other parts of the country. In fact, in those networking sessions, we aren't really going to have a particular topic. It's really going to be an open forum, maybe a couple of like conversation starters, but really a way to share ideas, programs, policies, things you're working on, make connections. So those will be announced and launched shortly. And then this summer, we're going to be hosting a number of training sessions. In place of that annual conference I was mentioning, since we're not holding it in person, we're going to do training sessions. I'm going to grab some water. Sorry about that. I'm recovering from a cold and I keep getting these coughing spells, which I might be getting. And if that happens, I will ask if you have any questions while I overcome this. Thank you for your patience. So I guess that concludes the portion about NACW, with one more caveat in that you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletters. And that's at nacw.org. So I highly recommend that you do that. Otherwise, I just wanted to say that as an example, in the past couple of weeks, both before and after the holidays, I've attended commissions in Texas, in Maryland, in Massachusetts, in California, Washington State. And this is one of the things I love. I love coming to these meetings and hearing what you guys are working on. I've spent the last 7 years working with my commissions in California. We have almost 30 commissions in California. And I've sort of become a de facto mentor and coach to a lot of them. I work with a lot of the chairs. One of the things we spend the most time on is, what is the primary purpose of these commissions? What are we here for? And if you go look at and read, and I recommend you do, the ordinance that was used to create your commission, or the statutory legislation that was used to create it, they almost all read identically the same. But we were primarily created to advise our elected officials on policy that support women and girls. The big question is, how do you do that? Most of our commissions don't know because no one's telling us. It's great. They created our commissions, they set us up, but then they sort of let us run with it. And there hasn't been any great resource to turn to say, well, how do you actually do that? What does that mean, advise on policy? And it's taken me a couple years to figure it out, but I think I've got it down pretty well now. And sorry, my cat just decided to show up for the meeting. That's Rosebud. But anyway, going back to this, it's the most important thing we can do. And I heard you talking about the 3 committees that you're setting up, your outreach and engagement, your strategic planning, and the infrastructure. And all of those are great. I personally led the outreach and engagement on my commission. I've been the treasurer on the commission. I've done all the financial work. We run a mini grant program, which I've run. We run an annual Women's Equality Day event, which I've run. We just celebrated our 53rd year anniversary, and our commission has had some big wins in the past. We've passed legislation supporting women and girls, and we are in the process of, we're getting ready to write a state bill, and we have a senator who's going to carry it forward. That will be a first in terms of any county level commission I've ever known of who's done that. State level commissions have done that in the past, but not a lot of them actually. So in a lot of cases, these commissions were created as advisory boards, and the first one was done in 1961 by JFK, who appointed Eleanor Roosevelt as the chair, and she's a huge women's rights supporter, and she's like the grandmother of all of us. But in a lot of ways, these commissions were created because women were not holding elected office. So in a lot of ways, the men were saying, well, let's give them something to do. We'll put them over here and give them this commission. And a lot of the commissions have spent their time holding luncheons, and then, which is wonderful, and maybe having a Women of the Year event. That's all great, but that's not our primary purpose. Our primary purpose is to advise on policy. Well, what policy? The only policy that we can advise on is for the jurisdiction that we were created for. So in your case, created for the city of Anchorage, you can look in depth, in detail to any of the services that the city of Anchorage provides. What are those services? It might be public safety, the police force. It might be criminal justice if the city operates any jails. It might be homeless if they provide homeless centers. It might be public works, which we know for a fact that they provide. So for each city, because I'm with a county, our county is pretty big, Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County. We have an annual budget of about $12 billion, almost $14 billion now. They employ 22,000 employees, and they provide services for homelessness, for education, for healthcare. We run 4 county hospitals. I mean, it's a huge operation. But what does our commission do? We focus on any of those safety net services that the county provides, and our job is to look for gaps and disparities in the way women and girls are being supported. But how do you do that? It's a big job in that case. Well, one of our best tools that we have is holding public hearings. And I wanted to mention that to you guys because it's actually a really critical tool, and it's something that you might want to consider. The first way and the best way to go about it is to reach out to the nonprofits. And I think I heard Kayla say that she's worked with nonprofits or does work with nonprofits. Sorry, I'm just letting the cat out. So the nonprofits in your city are your biggest partners. And the reason I say that is because they're the ones who are working on the ground with the women and girls that are disenfranchised, with those communities. They know where the city is meeting the need and where the city isn't meeting the need. And by talking to them and reaching out to them and having them in to either give you testimony, to have public hearings, or you can hold meetings with them also on the side, which is what we've done many times, is where you start to really understand where there are shortcomings, where there are things that the city can do better, and where you can advise on policy. And then the next step, if you take that one step farther, is to hold an actual public hearing where you're calling in the women in your community, the women with lived experience, the women who are living in their cars, or I hope none of them are in Anchorage, but in Silicon Valley, we have a lot of women living in encampments, in shelters, in their vehicles. We recently held a public hearing, which was absolutely phenomenal. We had over 200 people attend. And like most of these commissions, most of our commission meetings, nobody comes. It's just us. You know, we call for public comment. There's no public comments. The only way to really do that is to reach out into your community and invite them to come in. And you can do that very easily. You can send one of you as a commissioner, as the head of the outreach and engagement committee, can send out emails saying, here's our schedule of our next commission meetings coming up. We'd love to have you join us. Tell us what you're seeing. Tell us what you're feeling. Tell us where the city's doing a great job. Tell us where they're not doing a great job. And then from there, you can grow and say, okay, we want to have a public hearing on homelessness or a public hearing on justice-involved women. We had a public hearing recently on justice-involved women, and where we brought in women with lived experience who were formerly incarcerated. And we learned so much. We learned that almost every woman who leaves the jail goes back to being homeless almost immediately. We learned where the county is failing them in terms of being able to provide resources, education while they're incarcerated so that they can get out and get a job at a living wage. We learned that most of them are survivors of gender-based violence. Anyway, I don't want to go on, but as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. And one of the main thing for me is policy. How do we get to where we need to be in advising our elected officials on policy? The only way we can do that, your role as a commission, you're the liaison between your elected officials and your community. You're there to listen to them, to hear from them. And that shouldn't be a difficult process. It should be a pretty easy process of reaching out, communicating. In fact, I'll just to give you a little more detail on the public hearing, the most recent one we had on homelessness was actually, the title of it was Unhoused Women and the County's Housing Support System. Because we're not just there, we know, we all know about the problems, we know about the numbers. What we don't know is how is the county responding? And so we have to link it to that. So when we held that hearing, it actually took us several months to plan. We held multiple meetings with our nonprofit organizations, and we're a big county. We have over 80 nonprofit organizations that just work with the homeless. So we went through that list. We picked out about a dozen that serve specific populations, like foster youth who are transitioning out of foster care, many of whom become homeless, or women who are survivors of gender-based violence who have become homeless, or women with young children who are homeless and living in vehicles, or the list, there's actually a huge list of the different categories, but we met with different nonprofits and we talked to them about where they felt there were gaps. And then when we held the public hearing, we used those nonprofits to bring in, because they're the ones that have the relationship with the women that are actually living on the streets. And they went out and spread the word and helped us with transportation to bring the women in. We had care baskets or bags that we gave out to them to thank them for coming. Each one had 2 minutes to speak to us. They talked to us about how they became homeless, what was keeping them homeless, what were their challenges, what recommendations did they have? And almost every single one of them went back that night to the encampment, the shelter, the vehicle they were living in. It was so moving and so powerful. From that, we developed a list of recommendations, which went forward to our elected officials, which was incredibly well received. They unanimously voted to take those recommendations and forward them with a directive to the staff, to the county who operates the county's unhoused system, and require them to sit with us, go through each recommendation, and then come back to the Board of Supervisors with their recommendations and tell them which of these items have already been taken care of, which ones can we check off the list, which ones are still active, which ones do we think we can work on, and how do we prioritize those? So we found a lot of issues for women and girls, which you will always find everywhere. That's just the case. They're the ones who slip through the cracks. They're the ones who get the fewest services, and they're the ones who are often have the greatest obstacles to overcome, whether it be gender-based violence or other things. So with that, I'm going to stop just for a second, because I don't want to just talk nonstop, and ask you if any of that resonates. I don't want to go too off the deep end on too many things, but just curious if there's any interest.
Yeah, I'm super interested in your in the classes that you mentioned that you guys are going to be having.
That's with NACW, the online virtual. They're not really classes, but they're educational sessions and networking. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the national level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've talked, everything you're saying, I feel like resonates with what we've experienced in this commission. And Leslie and Cindy are like our longest commissioners. We've had a high turnover and not a lot of like consistency figuring out what has happened in the past. We don't get any funding either. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to like purely do this on will and bootstraps.
Volunteer basis. Well, to two of your points, no funding and the turnover, I just want to make 2 recommendations. Number one, with the turnover, we face that too. We have 15 seats on our commission. They're divided by district. Each of our elected officials has 3 seats to fill. It's just a constant revolving door. There's people that join and then they leave because there's nothing keeping them there. There's no purpose in line. And this is endemic everywhere. It's not your commission, it's not mine, it's everywhere. It's just the way these commissions were set up. And so one of the things we've done successfully with my commission is I found that the women who, besides people like ourselves, like for me, for example, I don't have any background in any of this. I just am a huge supporter of women's rights. I raised my hand, I'd love to do it. what I realized were the women who really can make a huge difference. So when you have open seats, you can go out directly and recruit people through your networks. I mean, yeah, you can put up posts on social media and you can try to find other ways to spread the word. But my biggest success has been going to the executive teams of the local nonprofits, especially the ones that are working on the ground in women's healthcare, homelessness, education, girls' leadership, whatever it is. You find the executive team members, and it's especially important if they get grants from your city. Because if they get grants from your city, that means they understand the budgeting process, the funding process, and the policies behind it. So they probably also have connections with your elected officials. And having a few women like that sprinkled on your commission can make a huge difference because they can cut right to the heart of it and say, we know that we're falling short in this area or this area. And so, and also we've been very intentional to try to find, specifically women who work with the homeless, women who work with justice involved, women who work with, foster kids, or women who work with, they don't have to be women. In fact, there's only one case in the US, but there is one case of a commission that has a man on the Women's Commission. So I don't mean to be sexist by saying recruit women, but recruiting allies or women to your commission. And it's pretty easy to do. A lot of them don't realize that this is out there. So when I went through this process a couple of weeks ago where I reached out to a nonprofit. I said, hey, you guys are doing phenomenal work. Do you have anyone on your executive team that lives in our District 3? And, I don't know if you guys are at large or by district, but, if you're by district, then you have to find people that live in the district, although they can make exceptions. And then you take that recommendation to your elected official and you wave it in front of them and say, I have the, wonderful person. We need to get them on the commission. And I've never had one turned down because frankly, they're pretty happy. Otherwise, they're just going through and pulling up their list. Has anybody applied? And okay, appoint this one. They're not they're not doing a lot of recruiting themselves, unfortunately. So for recruiting, I highly recommend that. And for budgets, I'll just say that we're all in the same boat. None of us have budgets, but that's okay. We're not really meant to have budgets. This sounds terrible to say, but we're here to move our city or our county into spending their money. They're the ones with the budget. They're the ones who are supposed to be creating the programs, the policies, and funding the services. So what we can help by saying we need to fund a pilot project for young mothers, teen moms that are, drowning, that need help because they need childcare so they can finish their education. We have one of those pilot programs in my county. It's called When Young Moms Thrive. And it helps provide childcare, and it gives I forget what you call a guaranteed basic income of like $1,000 a month plus childcare. So that mom can get her high school degree and then get to community college. And that's something that we pushed for. And that's a pilot project, and we're hoping it'll be expanded. And that's another thing that we're advocating. We need to expand this program. So and so getting back to budget and funding, I will say we are a little unique in Santa Clara County. Our commission was given the rights to have one fundraiser a year. So we have one fundraiser a year, and we don't raise a ton of money, but it's a lot of work. And I actually don't recommend it because it's so much work. It takes you away from your actual real work, which is advising on policy. But we hold this fundraiser, and then we take the money and we have a mini grant program, and we give out mini grants of $2,000 to $2,500 to individuals or organizations that are supporting women and girls. But to be fair, the county is already spending billions of dollars in programs. So for us to have our little tiny mini grant program, it's not really moving the needle. It's nice, but I strongly believe our job is to, and frankly, there are some commissions that actually look through their city or county budgets. They follow that budget process every year, and they're looking for areas where women are not being supported enough. And they're saying, you need more money for this or more money for that. I'm not an expert on that, but there are commissions that do that. So advising your electeds on their budget is a great opportunity. Meeting with your electeds, keeping your relationship with your electeds is really important. And they welcome it. They don't always have the time to think about it. But in my case, we have 5 supervisors at the county level. Those are our electeds. I have a relationship with all 5 of them. I know all of their staff. I know they have our county's pretty big, so they have staff of up to 10 each, and they have policy aides in every different area. So I know who to call if I want to ask about, one program or another, whether it's public safety or criminal justice or homelessness or but that's another great way. So as you're thinking of your strategic plan, and I don't know, Christy, if you have any interest, but I'm here, I'm available. Maybe this sounds bad, but I don't work. I spend all my time, like 60 hours a week, on just this. And I can meet with your strategic planning committee and help you come up with a plan of how to break this out and how to develop those relationships with your electeds.
So I was going to say, first of all, Ariana and I have had a lot of conversations about this over the past period of time. And I actually did know how many women's commissions were in California because I Googled, and the California has a statewide website with links to all these places. And there are so many great examples of not just the projects that you were talking about for specific issues, but their own strategic plans and their reports to their elected officials on different topics. So we had pulled some of that when we were coming up with the plan to have a plan, basically. What are the steps that we need to do in order to have enough information to put together a strategic plan that's going to matter, that guides our work. So as I'm hearing you, I'm like, okay, good. That was in the right direction. That's in the right direction. I'm glad to hear that other committees have had these same issues. I think for our strategic planning, like I said, our next step is getting a community needs assessment out there. Anchorage it's just under 300,000 in population. But it's a pretty diverse population. The school district here has children in it, or families in it, that speak over 112 different languages. It's one of the most diverse in the country. We have many populations that aren't represented on our committee, but also whose lived experience is something that we want to tap into. Women and children experiencing homelessness is at the top of the list. We have a number of actually municipal commissions that deal with the issue of homelessness. So coordinating with those other commissions is important in our estimation. But we're also looking at our Alaska Native population, women from that population, or our Asian Pacific Islander population, women who are business owners. We have a pretty robust small business community here, but we would like to see what is it that is helping sustain those female entrepreneurs in the community, women in education or trying to pursue education, and then women who aren't in the city limits itself, so to speak, what most people would consider to be Anchorage, but it includes some areas that I guess in the lower 48 we would call suburbs. They would not like us to refer to them that way. I'll just be really clear, but Eagle River, Girdwood, all of these places are served by the municipality. And so gathering their perspectives, and we're trying to take a 2-pronged approach. One is just a community-wide survey and using our networks to get that out beyond just our social media, but to actively get people to fill that out. And we had talked about also taking that out to community events so people could do it not just online. We have a number of commissioners who are or have been associated with the nonprofit community. So we have somebody who is currently working at our big community foundation. I work in the field of domestic violence, sexual assault. Leslie works with the state. with youth. And
That's
I'm going to
great.
miss some stuff here. Ariana actually works more on the political side. So that is why the community councils that we have. And so she understands that kind of structure, but whose voices aren't here. So
Right.
we had already talked to some nonprofits in the community about hosting some specific listening sessions for those communities that we definitely want to make sure we're getting a little bit deeper with beyond the survey. But
Definitely.
putting together something that guides our work, but also is actual data that our
That's so
assembly
important.
people can use
Yeah.
to make decisions. There's a lot of data on homelessness, but not so much on a lot of the other stuff for just our
Exactly.
municipality.
And how much of that data drills down into the gender and women
Yeah.
and is intersectional with race, ethnicity, gender, age, disabilities. And that's a hot topic right now. All of us are talking about that. Quick question for you. For your community needs assessment, I'm assuming that the intention is that the city is going to pay for it and execute it, I would think. It's not going to be something that your commission's going to have to do, I hope. You should guide it. You should guide it.
We're actually drafting it.
Okay, good.
Again, we have no budget, and we
Mhm.
also we have staff to help support our meetings and keeping those
Right, of course.
organized.
Yeah.
But Ashley has a full-time job already with the city.
Yeah, of
So we're
course.
not putting this on her. This will be us, but using some of those city resources like putting it out on the website,
Yeah.
using their Survey Monkey tool or whatever it is that they have a subscription to. In terms of the data analysis,
Right.
that is going to fall back to us. But luckily, again, there are several of us on the commission who have done this
Who know.
before. So
And I'm sure you have a lot of examples. I was just on a commission meeting with the city of Austin in Texas, which I know is a little bit bigger, but it's not a huge city. I think, well, maybe it is close to 900,000, but the city itself is just undertaking, I don't think maybe they've started it, the preliminary studies, but it's called a equity and inclusion survey. And this is being run by the city, but they came in to present it to the commission, and it sounded really good, very robust, very specific on all the intersectionality and the different issues involved. As I said, you've probably already looked at a lot of examples, but that might be one if I could get it to you, or just and also the
we
thing
would
is,
love that. I think I have some from different places in California and across the country, because I actually put
Yeah.
together a spreadsheet with websites and all of that to like see what's available from other places. Ours will not be as robust. So for example, I'm actually working within my workplace, which covers a specific region here in Alaska. We're doing a community needs assessment for that region.
Mhm.
That is going to cost over
Good.
$100,000.
That's the way you do it, right?
Yeah,
Well,
that's not the scale at which we're going to work. But
yeah.
I'm lucky enough to be able to tap into some of those people and say, hey, by the way, can you help me out a little bit here on this women's commission piece too?
Definitely.
Because yeah, we're just not going to have it. And we're okay with it not being as detailed and as, for lack of a better word, fancy as some of the other ones. We may not be able to do as much cross-referencing for those different issues. It's a place to start. And maybe
Right.
at a future date
Right.
when we go to renew something, we can recruit the funding by saying, here's
Yeah.
what we were able to do with just our skills
Absolutely.
and time. And
And
would you be willing to support something
they
more
should be.
significant?
I
Yeah.
think I'm very impressed, and I think if you do this on you're launching it, you're going to do a first pass, but that should definitely come back to the city. As you know, to be honest, that should be their responsibility. They should be paying for it. And you can put together a recommendation that they do. And frankly, you could also get a number of your nonprofits to write letters, make phone calls, show up, make public comment. That's how we've got a lot of things done on our side. Is it's not
And
just
that,
yeah,
I was gonna say, that may be what we end up doing when we go to put together the report, is saying, here are the areas that we feel are weak within this effort to collect this feedback and this data. And for the future, here is what it would take, but we've got to bring something to the table. We mentioned that while there were some sustaining members of this commission, keeping it as alive as they could, our commission actually came up to sunset this past fall. And that was a big push for us to say, look, we know that we don't have this long list of accomplishments right now, but we really feel like this commission needs to be continued. And our assembly did continue it. I think there's,
congratulations. Good
yeah,
job. It would have been really sad if they had let it go.
if they had let it go, there would be 0 women's commissions left in Alaska, because the state did sunset their
I
commission
was just going to
several
ask you
years
that.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no other, there's not, we're the only one here in all
Wow.
of the
Well, we need to
entire
make sure
state.
you're successful.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at,
Yeah.
is where can we be successful and be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to come back to our assembly and our mayor's office with, here is what this
Yeah.
effort produced. Here are the voices of women through this really cross sector of the community. And based on this, we know we can't do everything, but here's the 2 or 3 things that
Right.
we really feel. So between the survey and those targeted listening groups, I expect that we're going to get some pretty good direction.
Sounds like it.
It's probably going to mirror some of what we already feel,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to give
It'll
us the
support what
data
you
to
already know,
justify.
I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. No,
But I
that's
would love it if you have access to other samples
mm-hmm.
that different commissions have done. That would
Yep.
be extremely helpful. And then our strategic planning, the plan is to have that in person, to take this data that we collect, the other data that we know exists, like the homeless information data system here in the municipality is really pretty accessible and well done. They've had a
Good.
lot of time and a lot of money thrown into that. So bringing
Right.
that in, bringing in some guest speakers on different topics to say, okay, here's some more information for you in order to make some decisions, and then narrowing it down to a couple of things, because yeah, we're ready to start taking some action. But Leslie, you had your hand up before I started talking for way too long, and I wanted to come back to you to see what you wanted to talk to Nancy about.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. But my question was, she answered it already, and it was about the funding. Thank you, Nancy. That was a great presentation. And yeah, it seems like California is doing some happening things. So thank you.
Thank you. And not all of us, there really are not very many high functioning commissions, and I'm on a mission to try to change that. It might take me a while, but there's just not enough resources for us as commissioners to know how to do our job. But I love what you were just talking about. And by doing that needs assessment, the cool thing about all this intersectionality, when we're breaking things down by all these different sectors, it's not, yes, we're here for women and girls, but it gives a big picture of the community as a whole. So obviously your elected officials should be very interested in that. Where are the weak points? Where are the soft points? We do know that women and girls are typically, and women with children are typically on the bottom rung of just about everything. But it'll also show where they're doing good, where they're not, where other segments are doing well. So the city as a whole should certainly be very appreciative of this effort, and hopefully it will galvanize them to do more and to do whatever needs to be done after that, whether it's a more extensive survey or whether it's to actually start getting to work. And I will say that the other half of what we've done with our public hearings, we not only have the public hearings and bring the people with lived experience in to talk to us, and we not only talk to the nonprofits, but we also go to the internal departments within the county and have detailed meetings about what they're currently doing. Because it's not, you have to kind of understand the whole picture. So that's how we kind of are able to draw our conclusions about, because we've seen both, we're looking at both sides. And it doesn't hurt that we've had, in the case of with the homeless study, we had 2 women on the commission who were kind of experts in homelessness. So that kind of helped. And with justice involved women, we've had some folks involved there. And our other secret weapon, I shouldn't say this, but we have a very close relationship with our local law school. So I don't know if you have a law school in Anchorage, but that's a very interesting relationship to develop.
We do not have a law school anywhere here in the state of Alaska. However, I heard that there was a program starting. I just don't know
where exactly.
Kayla, have you heard anything about that, being that you're at APU?
Of a law school starting?
Some kind of law school where there were a handful of students. You haven't heard anything about it?
I don't think so. That's not to say it doesn't exist though, but I bet it would be a UAA.
Yeah, I don't know that it was. It was some kind of extension. I'll have to go back. I'll go.
UW has a extension, has had for a while, but it's like a third term or third year they come back to Alaska.
That's not it.
But the first 2 years they're at UW. So it's just that I don't think there's a plan for a full-time school, is what I'll say. But I do know that Alaska has one of the hardest bars in the nation. So weird fun fact.
Wow. Well,
here's the hardest bar in the country, but
and no law school.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I don't know if it would be of any help, but I've worked with several law schools around the country that have specific interest in gender. And those, for example, here in Santa Clara County, we happen to have a university called Santa Clara University, which has a very well-known law school. They actually, as part of their curriculum, teach gender equity. And it comes under the heading of, there's something called CEDAW. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's a United Nations treaty called the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It's actually something really exciting. We were able to pass a CEDAW ordinance in my county, and we're starting to see those happening more and more around the country. But the law school was very involved in that. They worked with us on it. They came to our public meetings. They made statements. They wrote briefs. They were fabulous. And they're actually working with a university in Miami. And they have also offered to help in other places. So in the event that we could ever help, I actually have quite a few resources nationally that would come to your meetings and make public comments in support of your work. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's wonderful. So we suspected you would be a good resource. We are glad that you are confirming this.
Yes.
We have about 15 minutes, a little less than that now, in our scheduled meeting time. So I wanted to make sure if anybody else, Sharon or Kayla, who hadn't had an opportunity to ask Nancy some questions or make some additional comments, if you guys wanted to. And I see that you're here, Celeste. I'm sorry that you missed this, but we did record all of this session so you can hear what Nancy said.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I got tied up at work and my apologies, but I'm really glad I was able to catch the last bit of that.
No, absolutely. But Kayla,
we covered
Sharon,
a lot of
did you have
topics.
anything?
I don't think I have anything. I actually knew most of what Nancy was talking about because I have a feeling I got chosen for this commission because I was on the Senate as like the youngest staff member at Syracuse for their women's commission is the one I ended up in. So it's just a straight beeline to hear for that. But they
Perfect.
actually talks about a lot of what you talked about, especially being from New York. So it's kind of like closer to home than all the way up here. But
Yeah.
no, I knew actually a lot of what you were speaking on. So
That's interesting. There's also another aspect to the commissions in terms of how we can interact on state legislation. And, we don't have to go into that now, but if you ever have any questions about it, there are ways we can. The bulk of our work is always within our own jurisdiction, so within Anchorage. But at the state level, depending on how you guys are set up, they might either, like, for example, I'm a member of AAUW. So I don't know if you know AAUW, it's the American Association of University Women. It's an incredible organization. And I do recommend Zonta and AAUW as two organizations that work nationally on support. That's all they do is women and girls and policy for women and girls. But anyway, I'm on the California Policy Committee for AAUW, and we have over 2,000 bills every year that get produced by our state legislature. And we comb through all of those bills and we pick out about 25 or 30 that support women and girls that we have a lobbyist in Sacramento. And now I'm talking about AAUW. But I also bring those bills to my commission, and then we vote on those. And then those bills we then send to our elected officials and ask them to add them to the package that they're supporting in Sacramento, because my county has lobbyists at the state capitol. And I'm sure the city of Anchorage probably also has lobbyists. They certainly have interests at your state capitol. And therefore, if there are bills that support women and girls, you guys should have a voice to say, we want these supported by our city. So that's another piece of the puzzle. And sounds, Kayla, you would be very familiar with that work, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, this is good to know. Sharon, did you have anything that you wanted to add or have any other
No,
questions?
no, I don't have anything to add, but it's a lot of great information, that's for sure. So thank
I'm
you,
glad.
Nancy.
My pleasure. Now, our goal is to try to check in with you guys on that from not me in my commission, but on the national level. There's actually one of our board members is in Seattle, and she was going to try to join me tonight, but she's in DC. She actually works for the U.S. Department of Labor, the Women's Bureau, which we thought was going to be abolished during this current administration, but they're still alive right now. And she is technically going to be working with me and potentially coming and hopping in maybe just a couple times a year, but just coming to say hi. But she's another resource too that I will connect you to. And she works out of Seattle. So
That would be
we're here for
fantastic.
you. We want to help in any way we can.
So, Nancy, I will reach out to you separately about getting, if any other samples and on needs assessments. And thank you for offering mentorship to our commission, and just some other suggestions. I'm looking forward to the monthly gatherings, even if it's sometimes just to commiserate with one another that we don't have budgets to do this work,
Those are
but
the
that's
best.
okay.
Yeah.
And then also the training sessions that you mentioned coming up in the summer. So thank you for your
Thank you for
passion
having
on
me.
this and your outreach to us.
Thank you so much. And thank you for putting up with my coughing attacks. I
No
got
worries.
overcome
No
there a
worries.
couple of times. But it's great to meet you all. I hope to see you again. We are having that event on January 28th. I'll be sending that over. I put my contact info in your chat. So save that. The only contact info I have for you guys is through your staff. So I'll send Ashley a message with the details for the event. And then I'll ask her to maybe connect me to you, Christy, if that's possible, but you all have my,
I'll just send you an
info.
email.
Just send me an
I've
email.
copied it down. So
Got it.
I'll just send you a direct email. And if you all don't mind, I can share our actual contact list for our internal commissions with them also. Is
That'd
that
be great.
okay?
I
Anybody
can put you
opposed to
all
me
on our
doing
list.
that?
Yeah. Cool.
All right,
And-
perfect. That way she can get us all on the list, and poor Ashley doesn't have to worry about forwarding everything out to us all.
That's right.
Um,
Thank you, Ashley, for setting me up to come tonight. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, that brings us to the end of today's agenda. We have 6 minutes left. Is there any other new business? Any public comments? All right, our next meeting is February 5th. So just a reminder, those of us on
I won't be here.
committees need to getting things going. Okay, Ariana, you're not going to be here.
I won't be here.
Um,
I'll submit a written update of my committee.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ariana. And the rest of us will be getting in touch with our committee, our fellow committee members. Open the door for motion to adjourn then.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
Saying, okay.
Okay. So we had Kayla on the second. All in favor, thumbs up or say aye.
Oh, you don't have to vote for a
Aye.
motion to adjourn. You just
I'm
adjourn.
at this point. Yes, now we're adjourned. Okay. Everyone's in
You don't have to
favor.
vote on it. Once it's seconded, you can just adjourn.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm fine with the constant voting. I like the people's voices. So, all right. Thank you all. And thank you again, Ashley.
I need you to
All right.
time and post the end.
Oh, 5:55 adjourned.
Thank you.
Drive
Good
safe,
night, all.
Ashley.
Will do. We go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.